welcome to The Drop.
Bam.
I am Karina, and this is my dad,
Yes,
John.
sir.
And we are so happy to be here with you guys yet again. We know that, this is, for me, when I listen, this is just kind of like my midweek, my middle of the week, like pick me up or encouragement or just things to reflect upon. And so we hope that that's what that does for you too. But we're excited to be here. And before we kind of get into our
There was some other little
episode
news that you wanted
today,
to
we
tell
wanted
people.
to remind you guys that we are switching over our YouTube channel from this current channel, which is under Oasis, to our own channel, The Drop Podcast. So the link will be posted here below. You can just click on that link, and then also it's right here on the screen. You guys can see it if you're watching. But it's just the Drop Podcast, and that's for YouTube viewing purposes.
Say it again. What was that?
The Drop Podcast.
Podcast.
Yeah, not a backslash, but a little dash. The one that goes left to right. So we would love for you guys to go and follow us over there, because in a couple of weeks we will not be posting here anymore for the podcast. So we want to make sure if you like to watch that you have the right channel for that. So go ahead and do that so you can keep hearing and keep watching. All right.
Now the audio stays the same.
Yeah, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, nothing changes for you. The only thing that would change is if you want to watch, you can, click on that link there. We're posting it on our Apple Podcast as well, in case you do like to watch sometime. So that's that. And so today we are talking about another discipline, which is called submission.
Oh.
Yeah. And I know as soon as you hear that word, all kinds of things start going through your mind, right?
For some people, it's a dirty word.
Submission. Some people hear that and they're like, talk to the hand. I'm turning around. No thanks.
I am not doing that.
I think most people, when they hear that word, it creates a negative response. It does not mostly create a positive response of like, oh man, yes, I love submitting. You know what I mean?
And even in some religious circles, it's been abused. It's been used to manipulate, especially women. People say, the wife ought to submit to her husband and this and that and whatever. Leadership,
which is not the full scripture.
It's not the whole picture. Leadership have used it to control people.
Right.
So submission as a spiritual discipline has gotten a bad rap.
Yeah, it's true.
But we're here today to give you the good news
of
submission.
Yeah, adjust that and see how submission really is beneficial to your life. And it's not a bad word, and it's not a bad thing, and it could actually be a really incredible thing that raises you to another level of your life or in certain areas of life.
It's really meant to enhance your life.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really meant to better your life, and so let's start by breaking the word down a little bit. Submission comes from two different words, obviously, sub and mission, which truly means to come under the mission of someone else.
Yeah.
Say for example, you're a singer, and you're gonna sing, and you tell me, I need you to slow this down a little bit, so that I can catch my breath and hit the note.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if I don't submit to that, then we're not gonna sound good.
Right.
And so I come under your mission and I say, okay, let's slow it down so that she can hit her note. So it enhances what we're doing together.
That's really good.
So it's about understanding that other people bring strengths, giftings that can be added to your life in terms of value and enhance your life.
That's so good. Yes, that's really good.
And so I think the Bible does say in Ephesians chapter 5, verse 21, I believe it is, 21 and 22, it says, submit one to another.
That's right. Yeah.
It's talking about the husband and the wife.
Right. Yeah.
So not only does the wife has to submit to her husband, but the husband has to submit to her wife.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that kind of gives you the real principle that submission is a mutual practice.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
the
not
back and forth. It's not one person in charge, and then everybody just has to just be like, oh, okay, well, I guess that's what we're doing. You know, there should be an exchange of ideas, an exchange of understanding.
Exactly.
And that's one thing that when I was, kind of looking at this, I was like, understanding submission I feel like it's really beneficial to, healthy relationships too, because
absolutely.
it's exactly what you're saying. There's like this mutual, like, okay, I can come under you here and support you in that way. Okay, well then I can come under you here and support you in that way, because if the goal is the health of the person or the health of the relationship or the growth of that person, then you should be willing to practice that submission for the benefit of the relationship and the person. So I think that application is really good too.
I think of when I was teaching you guys, our three daughters, or when any parent teaches their child how to swim.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so the father or the mother is on a mission to teach the child how to swim.
Yeah.
So they say, okay, I'm going to hold you here and just stay straight, and begin to move your arms, and so now the child has a mission. They got to move their arms, they got to move their leg, and the parent says, little by little, I'm going to let you go, but I'm not going to let you go all at once.
Yeah.
Now, basically, submission is we both have to cooperate.
Right, yeah.
I have to be sensitive to the mission of the child, and the child has to be willing to receive the mission from the parent.
Yeah,
and together, we can actually make it happen.
Yeah, that's really good.
But if one is resisting the other, then it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, that's true. And I think with that example, something I see that is really important with healthy submission is a level of trust, between the person that you're submitting to, or there has to be a certain level of trust. I mean, there's different levels of submission, definitely.
That's true. We'll touch on that, but let's touch on it right now.
Yeah, but I think trust is really important.
You're talking about submission to God.
Yeah. Right.
Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Right.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Then you're talking about submission to Scripture. Big, huge thing.
Such a helpful one.
Then you're talking about submission to spouses, one to another.
Right.
You're talking about submission to mentors.
Yeah.
To others. Submission to parents.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of different levels of submission.
Right.
And I think you hit on that.
Yeah.
And they're all based on what you're saying. Trust.
There has to be a level of trust. Yeah. And there has to be, like even when I think about submitting to God, I think in every exchange of submission, there has to be trust involved. Yes. But I think for me with God, it's the biggest level of trust, but it's also like the most comforting level of trust. Yeah. Because God is like, when I think about God and being able to submit to Him and submit to His ways, it's like, because I know God and I know His heart, I know that everything He instructs is because of love, and it's because of Him wanting me to succeed in life and Him wanting me to just keep growing, and so I can trust what He says, even though I might not understand it all the time, or even though I might not even like it all the time.
Sure.
I can even just set all of those things aside and say, okay, but I know that I can trust that what the Lord is showing me, it's for a reason.
Well, think about the fact that submission has to have a good foundation of a healthy relationship. It's very hard to submit to someone you don't know.
Yeah.
Very hard to submit to someone that has not proven that they have your best interest.
Yeah.
I think that submission has to happen within the context of what you were saying earlier.
Yeah.
A healthy relationship. Because without that, it's kind of like, well, I don't know if this person has the best interest in mind.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know if I want to do what they're asking me.
Yeah, it's true.
And I think in rare occasions, you're able to submit to someone that you really don't know.
Yeah.
Like if a policeman says stop.
Yeah.
You submit to that. Yeah. Even though you don't know who they are.
And I have a good example of that submission to someone you don't really know. I remember, and there can be a lot of benefits to that, for a certain reason.
Yes.
I remember when I was in college at Christ for the Nations.
Yeah.
And I can't remember how it all panned out, but it somehow panned out where our current worship leader at the church was transitioning or something, and I remember one Sunday it happened to where you know, that person couldn't show up, and then the next person who would normally help. And I remember you looked at me and you were like, it's you today.
You're it.
And I was like,
You're
oh
it.
my gosh,
You're stepping
are you
up.
kidding me? You know, and I looked at everybody's heads the
And
whole
how old
time.
were you? How old were you?
I don't know, maybe like, well, I was in college, so I had to be
19,
19.
maybe?
Yeah.
19.
So anyways, long story short, I mean, I've always loved to sing and this and that. And
Yeah.
so I started kind of stepping into that role of helping to lead worship. And I remember at Christ for the Nations, as it was a Bible college, there was one of our worship leaders on campus that I really loved. Like,
Yeah.
I loved her style. I always felt like really it was very easy to engage in that time of worship. And I remember telling myself, I'm going to watch her and I'm going to learn from her.
There you go.
And I'm going to follow like the things that I see that she does well.
good.
And I submitted unto her without her even knowing
Right.
her style,
You
her
received,
way,
you
and
received.
I received from
Yeah.
that. And I never talked to her because she was like an adult that was paid. She wasn't one of
Sure.
the student leaders.
Right.
And I learned so much from being willing to submit under her style and her
Right.
way.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a good example of like
Sure.
there are people you can
Yeah.
submit to.
Yeah.
You know, if you see like, you know, I like how that person does
Sure,
that. I'm
sure.
gonna learn how they do it
Exactly.
and put myself under that.
Yeah.
And again, like you said at the beginning, it's the purpose is to grow you and enhance you.
Enhance your life.
Yeah. So
I think submission also offers freedom. You know, freedom from the need that you always get your way or you always know what's the right thing to do. So
that's
it
good.
kind of opens us up to recognize the value of other people.
that's so good. That's
Opens
really
us up
good.
to
Yeah.
recognize, you know, this person brings something into the relationship that is able to enhance my life.
That's good.
And
I like
instead
that.
of always looking to myself, you know, I could also welcome the value that other people bring.
Yeah,
And
that's
it puts
really
me
good.
in a position of, you know, two walking together is better than one.
Yeah.
So it puts us in a position of being able to be free
Yeah.
of thinking I don't always have to be right. I don't
Exactly.
always have to get my
I
way,
don't
and that's a
always-
lot of stress.
Or I don't always have to have the answer.
I don't always have
you
to
know,
have the
I don't
answer,
have
yeah.
to, you know, try to figure this out all on my own. I can go to this person that I trust.
That's a lot of
You
pressure.
know, yeah, I feel I can learn from their ways.
That's right.
And I can come under them and say, hey,
Yeah.
you know, how did you handle this? You know,
Yeah.
here's what I'm going with. What do you see? What do
Yeah.
you? And again, I think that level of trust and being open to submission
Yep, absolutely.
is really important because
It's
if
the
you're
first
not
step.
if you're not even open to it, like you're not gonna be able to receive from anybody
That's
else.
right.
And so I think that's a big thing. Being
Well,
open
I
to it.
remember, you know, I had a spiritual father and a mentor, Dr. Ed Cole, who started Christian Men's Network, and you know, I told him I would submit to him,
Yeah.
you know, and his leadership. And I remember one day I saw him at the airport. He was going one way, I was going another way, and I was talking to him, and I was really discouraged.
Yeah.
Really discouraged. And I told him, man, I think I'm gonna quit, you know, the church and just travel and this and that. And he asked me, he says, well, do you think that's God's will for you, you know, to quit the church? I said, well, I don't know, you know, I'm not sure,
Yeah.
you know. And he looked at me and he said, well, you know, if you think it's hard doing God's will, imagine how hard is it going to be not doing God's will.
That's so good.
And he said, you better stick it out.
Yeah.
You know,
You
and
need to be sure about this.
And I'm like, you got a good point.
You know what? That's a great point. Yeah. But that's a great example because you had that relationship, that trust,
Yeah.
that you know that you knew whatever he said to you was out of like
Love.
this love and
Yeah.
this guidance and this level
Yeah.
of I want the best for you.
Yeah.
So I think that's really
And that
good.
was like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's done me well.
Yeah.
It's really served me well and served everyone else that's in the church.
Yeah.
And I think it makes us better. It makes us better when we have a heart that welcomes other people's value, you know.
Totally.
And I think Jesus is a good example of that because Jesus said,
Yeah.
I don't do anything unless I've seen the Father do it.
Yeah.
And I don't say anything unless I've heard the Father say it.
Yeah, that's so good.
So he was in total submission to the Father, and that made his ministry as a man here, man God here on earth, successful.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So a person should be ready, to receive.
Yeah.
A person should be ready to follow the example of Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine he was God made man.
Oh yeah.
He could have done whatever he thought.
Yeah.
But as a man, he said, "I don't do anything unless I get that direction from the Father."
Yeah, that's so good. That's a great example of, having that person in your life that you look to for that guidance and that strength and that like, okay, what should I do in this moment? And I mean, obviously God gave Jesus the ability to process and everything because he was God on earth, but I think that's a really cool example of even Jesus having somebody that he had that he kind of checked in with, so to speak.
Right, that's good. I like that.
And,
checking in.
It's kind of like,
Absolutely.
I mean, if Jesus, God on earth, had that system set up for his life, like, first of all, like, what makes me think that I don't need that,
Think about it.
Some sort of like, somebody in my life, whether it's, and I think different people give you different levels of that, like
exactly.
my spouse, my husband gives me one level of it, my best friend gives me a different, you give me a different, and my sister, and so, but I think it's so important because God didn't intend for us to live life alone.
There you go. We're not supposed to be lone rangers.
Right.
We're created to be in relationship.
Exactly.
And I think that is the key to everything. I think that I would like to kind of wrap it up a little bit and summarize here a little bit that submission is a powerful spiritual discipline because it enhances your life by welcoming the giftings and the value that other people have.
Yeah, totally.
And if you do it within the context of a healthy relationship, then it's going to bring value to your life.
Yeah,
it's going to make you better.
Yeah.
It's going to enhance you, help you in your decisions. And I want to say that I just turned 66 years old. And I don't make any major decision without consulting with my wife.
Yeah.
And sometimes I don't like the answer.
Right.
Sometimes I'm like, well, you're no help.
You're like, are you sure?
I want to do what I want to do,
I think you need to rethink that.
But she'll give me her feedback, and I'll have to sort it out, and I take it, but I'm receptive to her role in the relationship.
That's good.
And it's made our marriage better. It's made me better as a man. And I tell people, look, you have to be receptive to the people around you. And I think submission, it's a great thing if it's done within the context of a healthy relationship.
Yeah, and I think just one last thing to add to that, we've all experienced a bad experience with this whole thing. I mean, it's just a part of life, right? Like whether it was from a boss or whether it was, some other kind of trauma.
And some of it could be unintentional.
Yeah, some of it could be.
But some of it could be.
Some of it could be very intentional. There's some people who do try to abuse their power and things like that. And so we totally get that because we've experienced that in some way or another, probably multiple times. And so what I would have to say to you about that today is the only way to get past that so that doesn't taint any other further experiences is that you have to let God heal you of that experience.
That's good.
And don't look through that as a overall lens that everyone's going to be like that,
That's
right. And to just the last thing to say for that, take your time with allowing yourself to be open to submission, like you were saying, with people. It's okay to take time and be like, I need to see if I can trust this person.
Totally.
Test the person.
People have to show themselves trustworthy.
Yes, test the person in a healthy way, and and that's all in your power to do. And it's okay to take time for that, but definitely don't let a bad experience keep you from being open to what could be a lot of really great experiences,
That's right.
So I just want to say that.
Yes. Well, anyhow, I hope that this helps you and that it encourages you to the positive perspective of this spiritual discipline. And I think it'll definitely make your life better. But we just want to say thank you for being here with us. Thank you for watching or listening. And we just want to encourage you to share this with a friend, send it to a friend, and tell them tune in. You know, they might just love some episodes, and I think it's going to be a blessing to their life, and you're a part of that, so you can make that happen. So thank you for being at The Drop once again, bringing life, dropping truth, and encouraging you. So God bless you. We'll see you at the next episode.
See you next week.